turn back now to Florida, where a woman is facing sentencing today for murdering her husband.
Back in September, a jury deliberated for a little less than 4 hours before convicting Laurie Shaver of second-degree murder in the 2015 shooting death of her estranged husband, Michael. His remains were found years later in the couple's backyard under a fire pit, and now Laurie is facing 25 years to life in prison.
All right, we want to get you guys back into the courtroom now for the remainder of today's sentencing hearing.
And evidence. It was likewise objected to throughout the trial continuously as to the form of the introduction by the state. I brought to the attention of the court that the state entirely relied on circumstantial claims of evidence. And that would be, you know, it was always everything the state declared was going to be a timeline link, anything that came into evidence, whether it was the gun, whether it was the sale of guns, whatever it was, that would be their claim. I presented to the court a case, Smith versus Carlisle, which went back through the history of circumstantial evidence and reinstated a case called Volcker. And there the Supreme Court had declared if the state's going to rely on circumstantial evidence, there must be a foundation for that evidence that's not subject to any other reasonable interpretation except that of guilt. At no time did the state throughout this trial, not one single time, did they establish any foundation upon which these circumstantial claims were based. And that instead they argued to the jury in their closing it was just a totality of these circumstances that they could hang their verdict upon. Now, we understand there's a minimum mandatory of 25 years in this case, Judge, and the court can impose a life sentence in this case. Based on the evidence, the undisputed facts as I've just brought to the attention of the court, we'd ask for the minimum mandatory of 25 years be imposed against Laurie Shaver. That would be our recommendation to the court at this stage. And Ms. Shaver, I know in the PSI, she had sent the court a letter as to her feelings, impressions, and her sentiment about the matter. I presume it's made a part of the record for purposes of the sentencing, and I presume that the court has reviewed that as well.
I have reviewed the letter, Mr. Wiggs.
Thank you, Judge.
Is there anything further?
Just, and I sympathize with the family that's here. I know they have heartfelt feelings about it and emotions. It's not testimony in the sense that it's offered anything to establish the state's case. And I am sympathetic as to the scenario that they found themselves. The court would be reminded, though, and also in this case, that there was evidence of physical abuse by Mr. Shaver. And there was nothing that really contradicted that in this trial. I'd bring that to the attention of the court as well. And I think all these facts would justify at least the minimum mandatory imposition.
All right. Does your client wish to address the court?
Do you need 1 second? You said it in your letter. I wouldn't say anything. Okay. No, she doesn't, Judge.
Okay. Is there anything further?
Nothing further from the defense.
Anything further from the state?
No, sir.
Please present your client for sentencing.
Shaver.
All right. Laurie Shaver Filmer, in case number 2020 CF 2361, having been found guilty by a jury of your peers of the offense of murder in the second degree with a firearm and having been adjudicated guilty of the offense of murder in the second degree with a firearm, the court hereby sentences you to a term of life in the Florida Department of Corrections. Standard fines, fees, and costs will be assessed. Mandatory court costs will be assessed. You will have 30 days to appeal.